Every spring, millions of American gardeners spend hundreds of dollars on fertilizers, gadgets, and raised bed kits, put in back-breaking hours every weekend, and still end up with a harvest that barely fills a couple of grocery bags. Meanwhile, there is a community right here in the United States that has been feeding large families entirely from their gardens for over 3 centuries without a single tractor, without a rototiller, and without setting foot in a garden center: the Amish. And what amazes me most after 30 years of growing my own food is not just how much they grow. It is how little effort their methods actually require once you understand the system. Today I'm going to share 9 Amish tricks that can help you grow twice the food with half the work. Number 6 on this list completely changed the way I plan my garden every year. And if you stick around until the end, I have got a bonus tip that most modern gardeners have completely forgotten about. Before we get into the list, there is one thing you need to understand about how the Amish approach gardening. They do not see it as a hobby or a weekend project. They see it as a way of life built on one simple belief: work with the land, not against it. They call it being a good steward. Every technique on this list flows from that idea. Instead of fighting nature with chemicals and machinery, they observe what the land wants to do and then gently guide it. That philosophy is what makes their gardens so productive and, honestly, so much easier to maintain than most people expect. Let us start with the single most important trick in Amish gardening, and that is deep mulching. If you only take one thing away from this entire video, let it be this: the Amish lay down thick layers of straw, old hay, or leaves around their plants, and I mean thick, about 4 to 6 inches deep. It sounds simple, and it is, but the effect is enormous. That blanket of mulch does 3 things at once. First, it smothers weeds before they ever get a chance to sprout, which means you are spending almost no time on your knees pulling them out. Second, it holds moisture in the soil so you water far less often, sometimes half as much as an unmulched garden. And third, as it breaks down over the season, it feeds the soil with organic matter, making it richer and more fertile every single year. In zones 4 through 8, start mulching right after your transplants are established in late spring. Pull the mulch a couple of inches away from the stems so you do not trap moisture against them, and just keep adding more as it settles. I started deep mulching about 15 years ago after watching an Amish neighbor do it, and I have never gone back. My weeding time dropped by at least 70%, and my soil has never been healthier. The second trick is succession planting. And this is how the Amish manage to harvest fresh food from the same garden for months on end. Instead of planting everything at once in May and hoping for the best, they stagger their plantings in waves every 2 to 3 weeks. So they will put in a row of lettuce in early spring, another row 2 weeks later, another 2 weeks after that, and so on right through the summer. The same goes for beans, radishes, carrots, and beets. What this means is that instead of getting one massive glut of lettuce in June and then nothing, you get a steady, manageable supply from spring all the way into fall. It does not require any extra space. You are using the same beds. You are just planting smarter. In most zones, you can start succession planting cool weather crops like spinach and peas as early as 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. Then switch to warm season crops once the soil heats up. Keep a simple calendar and mark your planting dates every 2 weeks. That one habit will easily double your total harvest without adding a single extra bed. Number 3 is something the Amish have been doing for generations that modern gardening is only now catching up to, and that is intensive bed spacing. Most American gardeners plant in single rows with wide paths in between, the way you see in old farming textbooks. But the Amish plant in wide beds, usually about 3 to 4 feet across, and they space their plants much closer together than the seed packet recommends. The plants are arranged so that when they reach mature size, their leaves just barely touch, forming a living canopy over the soil. This does 2 powerful things. It shades out weeds naturally so you spend less time on maintenance, and it means you are growing food in every available inch instead of wasting half your garden on walking paths. For example, instead of planting tomatoes in a single row 3 feet apart with 4 feet between rows, try planting them in a staggered double row inside a 4-foot wide bed with about 18 to 24 inches between plants. You will fit nearly twice as many plants into the same Footprint. The key is to make sure your soil is rich enough to support the closer spacing, which ties directly into the next trick on our list. Before we get to that, if you are picking up some useful ideas from these old-fashioned Amish methods, take a second and hit subscribe. It helps the channel more than you know, and it means you will not miss the next video. The fourth trick is one the Amish consider the foundation of everything else on this list, and that is composting and building your soil first. There is a saying you hear in Amish farming communities: feed the soil and the soil will feed you. They do not spend money on synthetic fertilizers. Instead, they build massive compost piles using horse and cow manure, kitchen scraps, garden waste, and fallen leaves. They let it break down over the winter and then work it into their beds each spring before planting. The result is dark, crumbly soil that is absolutely teeming with life. Earthworms, beneficial fungi, microorganisms, all the things that make nutrients available to your plants naturally. And here's the part most gardeners miss. When your soil is truly healthy, your plants grow stronger, resist disease better, and produce more food with less intervention from you. You water less because rich soil holds moisture. You fertilize less because the nutrients are already there. You fight fewer pests because healthy plants are naturally more resistant. If you do not have access to farm manure, start a simple compost bin with your kitchen scraps, coffee grounds, shredded leaves, and grass clippings. Even in a small suburban yard, you can produce enough compost in one season to transform a couple of raised beds. I tell every new gardener the same thing Bill's Amish neighbors told me years ago. Do not worry about your plants. Worry about your dirt. Get the dirt right, and the plants take care of themselves. Number 5 is a trick that lets you grow 2 or even 3 times more food without needing any extra ground, and that is vertical growing. The Amish trellis everything they possibly can. Pole beans go up tall wooden stakes or simple string trellises. Cucumbers climb fences made from cattle panels. Even smaller melons and winter squash get trained up sturdy A-frame structures with cloth slings to support the heavy fruit. This is not just about saving space, although it absolutely does that. Growing vertically also improves air circulation around your plants, which means less fungal disease, less rot, and healthier foliage overall. Your cucumbers stay cleaner because they are not sitting on damp ground. Your beans are easier to pick because they are hanging at eye level instead of hiding under leaves. In zones 4 through 8, set up a simple cattle panel arch over a raised bed and plant cucumbers or pole beans at the base. You will be stunned at how much food comes off a single vertical structure. 1 8-foot cattle panel. Trellis in my garden produces more cucumbers than 3 rows of bush varieties ever did, and I spend about 1/3 of the time on maintenance because everything is right there in front of me. The 6th trick is the one I mentioned in the opening that completely changed how I plan my garden, and that is saving and selecting your own seed. Most gardeners buy new seed packets every single spring without thinking twice about it. But Amish families have been saving seed from their best performing plants for generations, sometimes passing down the same varieties for over 100 years. And here is why that matters so much. Every time you save seed from the strongest, most productive, most disease-resistant plant in your garden, you are slowly breeding a variety that is perfectly adapted to your specific soil, your climate, and your local pest pressure. After just a few years of doing this, you end up with plants that outperform anything you can buy in a catalog because they have been shaped by your exact growing conditions. Start simple. Let your best tomato plant, your most productive pepper, or your healthiest bean plant go to full maturity. Harvest the seeds, dry them on a paper plate for a week or 2, and store them in a cool, dry place over winter. The following spring, plant those seeds and repeat the process. It costs nothing. It takes almost no extra time. And over the years, the results are genuinely remarkable. This is one of those tricks that does not feel dramatic in year 1, but by year 3 or 4, you will wonder why you ever bought seed from a store. Number 7 is a technique the Amish use to squeeze maximum production out of every square inch, and that is interplanting, sometimes called polyculture. Instead of giving each crop its own separate bed, they grow complementary plants together in the same space. The most famous example is the 3 Sisters method, which many Amish families still practice today. You plant corn, beans, and squash together in the same mound. The corn grows tall and gives the beans something to climb. The beans fix nitrogen in the soil, feeding the corn and squash. And the squash spreads out along the ground, shading the soil to retain moisture and suppress weeds. Each plant does a job that benefits the others, and together they produce more food per square foot than any of them would alone. But the Amish do not stop at the three sisters. They tuck lettuce and radishes in the shade beneath taller tomato plants. They grow quick, maturing crops like spinach between rows of slow-growing brassicas. The idea is that no soil should ever be bare and no sunlight should go to waste. In zones 5 through 8, try planting bush beans between your rows of peppers this summer. The beans will fix nitrogen that your peppers can use, and you will get a full bean harvest from space that would otherwise just be empty dirt. The 8th trick is how the Amish stretch their growing season without spending money on greenhouses, and that is simple season extension using cold frames and row covers. An Amish cold frame is about as low-tech as it gets. It is usually just an old window sash propped on top of a wooden frame set over a garden bed. But that simple setup can raise the temperature inside by 10 to 15 degrees, which means you can start planting cool weather crops like spinach, kale, and lettuce a full month or more before your last frost date in spring. On the other end of the season, a lightweight fabric row cover draped over wire hoops can protect your fall crops from early frosts and keep you harvesting well into November in most zones. The Amish do not overthink this. They use what they have: old storm windows, scrap lumber, and cheap garden fabric. The point is not to build something fancy. The point is to give your plants a few extra weeks on both ends of the season, and those extra weeks can easily add 30 to 40% more food to your annual harvest. I built my first cold frame from a salvaged window and some 2x6 boards. It took about an hour, and it has given me fresh greens in March every year since. Now, our 9th and final trick is one where I want to be honest with you because there is genuine debate about this one. Many Amish communities practice moon phase planting, which means they time their sowing, transplanting, and harvesting according to the lunar cycle. The general idea is that you plant crops that produce above ground, like tomatoes, beans, and corn, during the waxing moon, when lunar gravity is believed to pull moisture upward through the soil. Root crops like carrots, beets, and potatoes get planted during the waning moon when moisture is thought to be drawn downward. Some Amish families follow this religiously and will not put a seed in the ground on the wrong moon phase. Now, the science on this is mixed at best. There are a handful of older studies suggesting slight germination differences based on lunar cycles, but most modern research has not found a significant effect. That said, the Amish have been doing this for centuries, and some gardeners swear they see better results when they follow the calendar. My honest take after trying it for a few seasons is that it did not hurt anything, and it gave me a structured planting schedule, which was useful on its own. If you are curious, pick up an almanac and give it a try for one season. You might be surprised, or you might just end up with a nicely organized planting calendar either way. Now, here is that bonus tip I promised you, and it is one of the smartest things I have ever seen Amish farmers do. Every few years, they let a bed rest. Instead of planting vegetables, they sow a cover crop like clover, winter rye, or buckwheat and let it grow for a full season. Then they chop it down and turn it into the soil. This does something almost magical. It rebuilds the organic matter, fixes nitrogen, breaks up compacted earth, and basically resets the bed so it comes back more productive than ever the following year. Think of it as giving your garden a Sabbath. It feels counterintuitive to skip a season of growing, but the Amish understand that land, just like people, needs rest to keep giving its best. And that is all 9 Amish tricks plus a bonus to help you grow more food with less effort this season. I hope at least 1 or 2 of these ideas sparked something for you. Drop a comment and let me know which trick you are going to try first. And if you have not subscribed yet, now is a great time. Thanks for being here today, friends. Now get out there and grow something good.